Alright, hello everyone. Today I wanted to talk about Kraken a bit, and I've seen this special a bit, so a quick rundown on its strengths. It's invincible with a bunch of control, including a mode that's immune to knockback, so you can force yourself into pretty much any area and force people to deal with you no matter what they want to do. On top of it, it's amazing against most specials in the game, either because they're slow and that makes it easier for Kraken to hit, like Trizuka's movement penalty, or just the ability to shred through HP specials with very little risk. And of course, the objective power on the tower. You can just tank a Booyah Bomb. You can charge forward and grab the Rainmaker for guaranteed points. And you can give power clam jumps and clam blitz. You know, it seems very strong. And there was this comparison posted to r/Saltoon, which normally I don't really care about post there because it's Saltoon. People go there to be salty and it doesn't matter. But this post is interesting in the sense that it's not exactly wrong. Nothing here is technically incorrect outside of the essentially zero counterplay, because both of these you can move out of the way, which is not good counterplay. It's extremely limited, but we'll get to that. But I mean, everything else, yeah, you force someone to move. Kraken's not going to force many people to move his missiles, but you can still kind of force whoever you want to move. It secures objectives, one-hit kill and AoE. Yeah, technically the Kraken jump is a pretty wide radius. You can count that as area of effect. And especially at higher levels, it very consistently gets value, which is very important to being good. But there's a big difference to why this chart doesn't really actually work, even though nothing said it was wrong. If I pop missiles, me and my team of other 3 players will go walk in and push with the missiles. So anyone displaced has to be displaced plus fighting a full team. If I Kraken and go for one dude, this is a 3v3 assuming that man doesn't die. And so while I'm going around with my Kraken, my team is pushing 3v3 and theoretically, the fight is even, right? And Squid School kind of talked about it. Like, I think it has value, but seeing Kraken has no counterplay is objectively false. I think it needs to be killed is short-sighted. I'm not defending the special design. My issue is the mindset. If you don't think the counterplay, if you don't like the counterplay that exists, I respect that. But it's not to say that there isn't counterplay. And he's right. Theoretically, because the Kraken is a player, there's a lot more options in terms of how you want to deal with the special. However, it still feels pretty miserable to fight as people are learning, and that's something I kind of talked about. I talked about why I feel it is kind of horrible to fight. Like, I don't think you're wrong with the extreme lack of options, whereas it clashes with most specials in the game having multiple clear options to beat certain specials. Secondary cheese strats hurt in solo where it'll be hard to deal with. So, for example, the power clam jump strat or the Rainmaker strat might not be as common in competitive. Like, teams will definitely still do it. There will be times for it, but it won't be the entire thing you play around. But in solo queue, it's going to hurt. If anyone's played Splatoon 2 Clam Blitz, you probably remember seeing a bunch of baller players roll over to the basket and throw games for you while the other team is scoring, because that was a common cheese strat. That's going to be more common here. And then finally, there's a lack of Kraken taming. Kraken taming was your other option to fight Kraken. And yeah, shooting it still does something, because you still do force it to use the charge attack, and that has its own set of downsides. So it's not like it's useless, but Kraken taming is nerfed pretty hard in this game. So the reason why Kraken can feel kind of annoying to fight, and the reason why I've expressed a lot of concern for the special is the limited options you have to deal with it. So let's talk about one special that does this really well in terms of, like, being a special that nobody is really that annoyed by overall. And that's Wavebreaker. So, Wavebreaker on paper is a very simple and easy special. It doesn't really have too much skill expression outside of, like, timing and throwing it in the right location. It's very simple. You just kind of, like, throw it down. So why do people like it? Why is fighting against this thing fun, you know? The reason is because you have many different options to how to deal with it. Specifically, you have 3 different options. One, you could shoot and try to break the Wavebreaker, which takes a bit of time. You could try to ignore and just jump over the waves to avoid being hit by it. Or, in some situations, you can let yourself get hit by the Wavebreaker to prevent it from impeding your movement and only taking small amounts of damage in location. Because there's many different ways of dealing with the special, the player fighting it always feels like they have more ways to dodge it and more ways to deal with it. That's what makes fighting Wavebreaker fun to fight. Of course, the other main factors, like, obviously you have to throw the Wavebreaker where you are, so you can't just pop them across the map. And that's why missiles feels so much worse by comparison. Not only is the only thing you can do against missiles kind of, like, move somewhere so the missiles don't displace you as hard, which inherently is very limited, but there's also not a lot you can do to stop the missiles from actually hitting you. The whole lock-on phase has no back and forth at all, pretty much. I mean, you can move a little bit, but, like, I mean, come on, if they want to missile you, they're gonna missile you. You don't really get much of a say in it. And so missiles feels like you're fighting something that you can't really deal with and have no options against, and good special design feels like oftentimes you can deal with it very well and you have many options. That means when you fight it and it goes poorly, if you think about it analytically, then it's okay, because it's like, okay, well, I could have done this and this and this and this and this, and you can kind of get an idea of what to do from there. However, as much as I agree about a lot of this stuff applying to Kraken, there is another giant difference between missiles and Kraken that fundamentally change how the special impacts the game. Missiles is a special built around hurting the enemy to enable you to get in. It's not really super satisfying, and I'm saying this is one of the people who actually enjoys playing missiles, contrary to popular belief. I actually do like it. That's why I played K-Shot a lot at the end of Splatoon 2. It's one of the more enjoyable meta weapons for me to play. But it's a special that, for the most part, affects and hurts enemies, and that doesn't feel great to fight. And while Kraken can feel annoying to fight, it's only going to be fighting a few people on the enemy team for the most part, unless it gets like an absolute kill streak. It's not going to affect the entire team. But on top of that, it's an enabler special. Rather than popping a special and it, like, being massive value on a team fight, if you're too low a level, it's going to be hard to feel missiles impact us at all. That's why a lot of people think it's bad. And at too high a level, you understand it just basically wins it if the team plays around it correctly. So it's annoying in, like, both attributes. Kraken, on the other hand, is kind of a selfish special in ways. It's a transformation aggressive one, so the Kraken user gets to have fun. Kraken is, by nature, one of the most fun specials to use, because it's an enabler. You get to go in and you get to go for kills and you get to play the game. In Splatoon 1, the best description of Kraken I heard, which is from FLC, and it applies to the game in general, is that it's a single-player game. You pop Kraken and the inputs from the enemies don't really matter. In this case, it's kind of true. I mean, they have some stuff they can do, but for the most part, when you pop the Kraken button, you don't really have to worry as much what the enemy team is actually doing. And so that makes it fun. The other thing that Kraken helps with is the maps. Let's take a look at this choke point here. This one way to push. The special fest to get through there. Like, imagine trying to be an Ultra Stamp weapon and trying to walk through this area. Unless if you're a wiper, good luck with that. But for a weapon like this, a slow, low strafe speed, poor accuracy, can't press the B button weapon with a sub that anchors it down, this thing would have no way to function to get through without something like this. All of a sudden, you can break the bad maps and just go through them. And this isn't anything new. Splatoon 1 Kraken did this too. There's a very famous strategy with Octobrush on Moray Towers where you would use Kraken and climb all the way up to the enemy side of the base and then set up beacons there for your team to go to. The idea of Kraken being used to force yourself into areas is nothing new. The difference is Splatoon 1 has a lot of maps where you don't need to do that because they had some maps that were actually really smartly designed, and this game doesn't have many of them. Having a weapon that can actually brute force the maps and also brute force the specials matters a lot. Do you know anything else in this game that could go over here, see a crab on the other side of the map, and instead of being like, well, time to wait 8 seconds, go, nope, my turn, get out of the way, and then go kill it, or at least stop it from firing? And because you stop it from firing, not only are you able to go in and have fun, but the other 3 people who are getting walled out by the crab also get to go in and play the video game. And so this is the current state of Kraken. It has problems. It's hard to deny. It's still way too powerful on objectives. The counterplay is still very limited, and as time goes on, people are finding that more and more annoying to deal with. But at the same time, it fundamentally helps a lot of the problems with the game while feeling very satisfied as a special. That's why, design-wise, I wouldn't rate it as low as missiles. Now, what I would like to see changed for Kraken is 2 things. One, I would like to see them add a bit more to the special to be more fun. Because let's face it, if we're going to be fixing its ability to, like, cheese objectives and stuff, then you gotta have other stuff be fun. So, like, for example, in this game, they took out Kraken super jumping. You can't super jump with the special. Why? Why not? Like, this would be fun. Yeah, it has a few practical applications, but, like, if you're gonna jump out to dodge the end lag, you're getting rid of, like, 2 seconds of your special. Another thing is ink lines, which unfortunately aren't on this map mode, so my bad. You can't go in ink rails. Why not? Would it be cool? Give Kraken stuff like that, that barely bumps it up balance-wise, but ups the fun factor. Then we can try to nerf it in ways that specifically affect the objective. Making it take more knockback while it's on the tower would be a good change. Having the knockback be instantly stopped when grabbing the Rainmaker. Not allowing you to jump with power clams, or maybe having a delay before you can throw a power clam upon landing, so jumps have some counterplay, which is something Clam Blitz can honestly use in general. Even if it's a cheese strat, it's not really a great strat to have roaming around in solo queue, breaking the mode and making people hate it, which is already a problem it has. Small fixes like that would do good. The main thing is, I don't know if they'll ever change the invincibility. My closest idea is one of decaying HP. So basically, if you shoot the Kraken, it doesn't take damage in the sense of normal damage, but it'll hurt its duration. So basically, if it takes, say, 500 damage, that's the first threshold. That'll take off a second of your duration. Kind of like how Zipcaster loses duration with the amount of ink you use. Then, if you do half that damage, 250, that'll be the next second. So it scales exponentially. And that way you could have it so the Kraken has to take a lot of damage before it actually starts having an impact. And that way, you know, if you're rushing stuff like a crab, which could even have negative damage multipliers against it, you'll be okay and you won't notice it. But if the enemy team has to get it off the tower and is going to throw like 3 tri-strikes doing like 1,000 damage, it's going to matter more. But even then, I'm unsure if that's something they actually need to do. It would just help. I think for the most part, increasing the knockback from a lot of specials that can struggle with it. Not Crab, don't do it with Crab, but like Inkjet, Reef Slider, stuff like that. Increase the knockback on that, and then have things like, if I'm on the tower, I should take a lot of knockback. I should not be able to stand and do this and tank a Booyah Bomb. That's kind of dumb. That kind of stuff would be helpful. So, to give a TLDR, yes, Kraken has problems. It's also nowhere near as bad as missiles. It also actually helps with a lot of the game's problems as much as it has some of its own things to worry about. And at the end of the day, I do think it is more healthy for the game than it is creating problems. But if they could adjust the special and get rid of some of these problems, then it could be super healthy for the game. So I'd personally love to see that. For now, though, we'll have to see. Kraken's only on 2 weapons, and only one of them is seeing significant competitive use, and even then it's not that much, which is this thing. So, I don't know. We'll have to see. But that's my thoughts on Kraken versus Missile and all that. Let me know what you think. Bye.